Captain Marcus Webb pressed his face against the thick glass window of Chamber 7, watching the silver beast pace inside its metal cage. The creature looked like a giant wolf, but its head was covered with blue crystals that glowed softly in the dark room. Everyone called it Nexus, and for 3 years it had been the best security guard on Station Omega. The Galactic Trade Federation had found these strange animals on a distant planet called Zephyr Prime. The beasts could read minds. They could tell when someone was lying or planning something bad. It was like having a living lie detector that never made mistakes. Marcus had gray hair and old scars on his face from years of security work. He had seen many strange things in space, but these Mindreader beasts still amazed him. The creatures were smarter than most people realized. They could sense danger, fear, and dishonesty just by being near someone. Lieutenant Diana Clark walked up beside him, holding a tablet computer. She was young and eager, with bright eyes that missed nothing. "Another good day, Captain," she said, reading from her screen. 17 people scanned, 12 liars caught, 5 major smuggling operations stopped. Marcus nodded slowly. The system worked perfectly every time. When suspicious people came to the station, they had to go into the scanning room with Nexus. The beast would walk up to them and touch their forehead with its crystal crown. In seconds, it could tell if they were criminals, spies, or cheaters. These creatures evolved on a world full of dangerous predators, Marcus explained to Diana, though she had heard this before. They learned to read the minds of other animals to survive. They could sense when a predator was about to attack or when prey was nearby. A soft bell rang through the station. Marcus looked out the big window and saw a human cargo ship docking at Bay 12. It was nothing special, just another trader bringing supplies from the outer colonies. The ship's papers said the captain was named Thomas Carter. "Put him on the scanning list," Marcus told Diana. "Same as everyone else." Diana typed on her tablet. "Standard security check for Captain Thomas Carter. Should I schedule him for this afternoon?" "Yes." "No exceptions for anyone." An hour later, Thomas Carter stood in the waiting room outside Chamber 7. He was a tall man with gray hair at his temples and rough hands that showed he worked hard for a living. He seemed calm and even curious about what was going to happen. "First time through one of these scans?" Diana asked him while checking his identification papers. Thomas smiled. "Yes. I've heard about these Mindreader creatures though. They sound amazing. I'm actually excited to meet one." Marcus activated the chamber controls from his booth above the scanning room. The thick metal doors slid open with a heavy sound. Inside, Nexus waited in the center of the white room. The procedure was always the same. People would walk in, Nexus would approach them, touch their head with its crystals, and give a reading in just a few minutes. Thomas Carter stepped into the bright white room. He looked around with interest, like a tourist seeing something new and wonderful. But then something happened that had never happened before in 3 years of operation. Nexus, who had never been afraid of any living thing, suddenly jumped backward against the far wall. Its blue crystals started flashing rapidly between blue and deep purple. The mighty beast began shaking like a scared puppy. "What's going on?" Diana's voice sounded worried through the intercom. Marcus stared in shock. The powerful Mindreader beast was pressing itself against the wall as far away from the human as possible. Its crystals were flashing colors Marcus had never seen before. A low, frightened whining sound came through the speakers. Thomas Carter stood in the middle of the room, looking confused. "Should I do something?" he called out. "Is the creature okay?" For the first time in his long career, Captain Marcus Webb had no idea what to say. The most reliable security system in the galaxy had just met something it could not handle. Other station workers began gathering outside Chamber 7, drawn by the unusual sounds. They pressed their faces against the observation windows, trying to understand what was happening. "Try calling Nexus forward," Marcus said into his microphone. "Here, boy," Thomas said gently, extending his hand like he was greeting a friendly dog. "It's okay. I won't hurt you." But Nexus only cowered more, its crystal crown now flashing bright purple warning colors. The beast made sounds Marcus had never heard before, like it was crying for help. "Get him out of there," Marcus ordered. As soon as Thomas Carter left the scanning chamber, Nexus began to calm down. Its crystals slowly returned to their normal blue glow, but the creature still trembled slightly. Word spread quickly through the station. The human had broken the Mindreader system. Some people whispered that Thomas Carter must be hiding terrible secrets. Others wondered if humans had special powers no one knew about. Marcus sat in his office later that day, staring at reports that made no sense. Thomas Carter seemed like a normal, honest trader. His cargo was exactly what his papers said it was. His travel records were clean. There was nothing suspicious about him at all. Yet somehow, this ordinary human had terrified the most powerful mind-reader beast in Federation space. Something was very wrong, and Marcus had no idea what it could be. 3 hours had passed since the strange incident in Chamber 7, and Station Omega was buzzing with activity like a kicked beehive. Word traveled fast in the small space of a trading station. Everyone was talking about the human who had somehow broken the mind-reader system. Captain Marcus Webb walked back and forth in his office while Thomas Carter sat in a comfortable chair nearby. The human was drinking coffee and telling stories about his home planet Earth. He seemed completely puzzled by what had happened, showing no signs of the nervous behavior Marcus usually saw in criminals. "I've carried goods through 47 different star systems," Thomas was saying in his calm voice. "Never had anything like this happen before. Is Nexus sick? Maybe the creature needs a doctor." Lieutenant Diana Clark came into the office carrying a stack of papers. "Captain, I've run every test we have on Mr. Carter. His cargo papers are perfect. His travel records check out completely. His medical scans show normal human readings. There's absolutely nothing wrong with him." Through the office window, Marcus could see Nexus in its holding area. The silver beast was still upset. Its crystal crown kept flashing those strange purple colors whenever someone mentioned the human's name. Dr. Emily Harrison arrived with several cases of scientific equipment. She was the station's expert on alien animals and biology. "Captain, I need to examine both the creature and the human. This behavior is completely new. I've never seen anything like it in all my years studying these beasts." "The human isn't a prisoner, Doctor," Marcus reminded her firmly. "Mr. Carter, you can leave anytime you want." Thomas finished his coffee and set down the cup. "But you'd like me to stay and help figure this out, right, Captain? I don't have anywhere urgent to go. Besides, I'm curious too. I've never seen a mind-reader beast before today, and now I apparently scare them somehow." While Dr. Harrison began her tests, more strange reports came in from other parts of the station. 3 different alien telepaths had tried to read Thomas Carter's mind from far away. All of them reported the same disturbing result. Instead of finding the normal flow of thoughts they expected, they found what one described as a wild storm too crazy to understand. "It's not that he's blocking our telepathy," reported James Mitchell, who coordinated all the telepathic workers on the station. "It's more like trying to read a book during an earthquake while someone plays 20 different loud songs at the same time." Meanwhile, news about the incident spread beyond Station Omega. Captain Alice Reynolds, who commanded a Federation security ship called the Vigilant, asked for detailed reports about what had happened. 3 big trading companies demanded to know why Carter's cargo was being delayed. Most worrying of all, rumors began spreading that humans might have some secret psychic power that nobody knew about. In Chamber 7, Dr. Harrison tried a new test. She brought in Robert Phillips, a human engineer who worked on the station, to see if the same thing would happen with a different human. The result was exactly the same. The moment Phillips walked into the scanning area, Nexus ran to the far wall, shaking and making those frightened sounds. "This isn't just about Thomas Carter," Dr. Harrison told Marcus that evening. "This is about all humans. I'm requesting help from the Federation's top mind expert. We might be looking at something much bigger than we thought." By the next day, 2 more human traders had arrived at Station Omega for routine business. Captain Helen Brooks commanded a merchant ship from the moon colonies. Engineer David Thompson transported mining equipment between asteroid bases. Both were scheduled for standard mind-reader scans. Both produced identical results. Nexus refused to go near either human, cowering against the chamber walls and flashing those warning purple colors. Marcus gathered his senior staff for an emergency meeting. "We have a serious problem. Either all humans are somehow dangerous criminals, which seems impossible, or there's something about human minds that these creatures can't handle." Diana pulled up security footage on the main screen. "Look at this, Captain. All 3 humans show the same body language. They're relaxed, curious, even friendly. These aren't the behaviors of people trying to hide something." Dr. Harrison had been running tests all day. "I've been studying Nexus's brain patterns during these incidents. The creature isn't detecting lies or criminal intent. It's showing signs of sensory overload, like someone shining a bright light directly into its eyes." "What does that mean?" Marcus asked. "It means the problem isn't what these humans are thinking. It's how they think. There's something about human brain patterns that overwhelms the mind-reader beasts." Thomas Carter had been given guest quarters on the station while the investigation continued. He seemed to enjoy the unusual situation, spending his time learning about alien cultures and making friends with the station crew. Other humans might have been angry about the delay, but Thomas appeared genuinely fascinated by the scientific mystery he had accidentally created. That night, Marcus stood alone in the observation deck, looking out at the stars. A routine security scan had become something much bigger. Reports were coming in from other stations across the galaxy. Humans were being flagged as security risks not because they were criminals, but because the Mindreader beasts couldn't scan them at all. The Federation's entire security system was based on these creatures' ability to detect deception and criminal intent. If humans were immune to Mindreader scanning, it would change everything about how the galaxy handled security and diplomacy. Marcus realized that Thomas Carter, sleeping peacefully in his guest room, had no idea that his simple presence was forcing the entire galaxy to reconsider what they thought they knew about humanity. Dr. Sarah Mitchell stepped off the fastest ship the Federation could send and walked quickly through Station Omega's docking bay. She was the galaxy's top expert on telepathic creatures and alien psychology. Her credentials could open any research facility from the center worlds to the far edges of space. Captain Marcus Webb met her personally at the entrance. "Doctor, the situation has gotten worse. We now have 6 different humans who've caused the same reaction in Mindreader beasts across 4 different star systems." "Show me everything you have," Sarah said, her sharp mind already working on the problem. In the observation room above Chamber 7, Sarah watched through the thick glass as Nexus showed its fear response just from hearing about humans nearby. The creature's crystal crown had developed new color patterns. Deep purples mixed with flashes of gold that pulsed fast and nervous. "The creature isn't detecting lies," Sarah noted, studying the computer readings. "These patterns show something more like sensory overload." Thomas Carter joined them for the examination. 2 other human traders were with him now. Captain Helen Brooks commanded a merchant ship from the moon colonies. Engineer David Thompson moved mining equipment between asteroid bases. All 3 humans had caused identical problems with Mindreader beasts. "What we need to understand," Sarah explained to everyone, "is whether this is something new or something that's always existed but we never noticed it before." She started by looking at old records. Federation files showed that humans had only been using Mindreader security systems for 6 years. That was very short time in galactic terms. Before that, human space had stayed mostly separate from the telepathic networks that ran most Federation security. "We've been assuming that humans were simply never tested before," Sarah told Marcus during their evening meeting. "But what if they were tested, and the results were so strange that people thought the equipment was broken?" Her research team worked day and night, studying brain scans from the 3 human volunteers. What they found challenged basic ideas about how minds work. Dr. Benjamin Hayes, Sarah's research partner, presented what they had learned. "Human brain structure works in ways we've never seen before. Most thinking species process thoughts in order, one after another. Humans seem to process many different contradictory thoughts at the same time." The brain scans showed the source of the problem clearly. An Andromedan mind created clear, organized thought patterns that telepaths could easily read. Human consciousness looked like a 3-dimensional maze of connected ideas, emotions, memories, and sensory information all firing at once. "To a creature that evolved to read simple predator thoughts," Sarah explained, "trying to scan a human mind would be like trying to drink from a fire hose while standing in a hurricane." She set up a controlled test with Lieutenant Diana Clark volunteering as the human subject. As Diana entered the chamber, Nexus's distress became obvious immediately. The creature's crystal formations blazed with brilliant, chaotic colors that hurt to look at. Using special telepathic equipment, Sarah tried to communicate directly with Nexus. The images she received were overwhelming. Flashes of human memories mixed with emotional responses, pieces of songs, math problems, childhood experiences, and sensory impressions all bleeding together in an impossible tangle. Sarah had to disconnect quickly before the mental chaos gave her a headache. "This is incredible," she told the watching team. "The creature isn't afraid of what humans are thinking. It's afraid of how much they are thinking, and how chaotically they think it." Thomas Carter, who had been watching from the observation room, raised his hand like a student in class. "Are you saying we think too much?" "Not too much," Sarah corrected him. "Too complexly. Dr. Hayes, show them the comparison." Dr. Hayes activated a holographic display showing brain activity patterns. An Andromedan thinking about trade negotiations shows clear, organized thoughts. First evaluate the proposal, then consider profits, then make a decision. Nice and neat. He switched to a human brain scan thinking about the same trade negotiation. It looked like a fireworks display. Thousands of neural pathways fired at once, processing the negotiation while also considering the speaker's body language, remembering similar past experiences, calculating multiple possible outcomes, staying aware of room temperature, wondering about lunch, and thinking about a conversation with their spouse from 3 days ago. To put it simply, Sarah explained, when most species think about one thing, they think about that one thing. When humans think about one thing, they think about that thing plus 50 other related and unrelated things all at the same time. Captain Helen Brooks leaned forward in her chair. So our minds are just too busy for these creatures to handle. Exactly. The complexity creates feedback that can actually damage telepathic brain structures. Nexus isn't just refusing to scan humans. It's protecting itself from mental injury. David Thompson, the mining engineer, looked thoughtful. This explains why other species always say humans are unpredictable. We're not really unpredictable. We're just processing so many different things at once that our behavior looks random to creatures who think in straight lines. Sarah nodded enthusiastically. What the galaxy has always seen as human emotional instability is actually the most sophisticated thinking system we've ever encountered. You don't just think. You think in layers and dimensions that create a natural psychic fortress around every human mind. Marcus realized how big this discovery was. We need to contact Federation Command immediately. This changes everything about human and alien relations. Through the chamber window, Nexus had finally stopped flashing warning colors. For the first time since meeting humans, the creature looked curious instead of afraid. The breakthrough came when Dr. Sarah Mitchell was working late in her temporary laboratory, comparing brain patterns from humans with every known telepathic species in Federation records. Coffee cups and data tablets covered every surface as she pieced together the puzzle that had been bothering her for days. Captain Webb, she called urgently through the station's communication system. I need you and everyone in Conference Room Alpha right now. This is important. Within minutes, Marcus Webb, Lieutenant Diana Clark, Dr. Emily Harrison, and the 3 human volunteers gathered around Sarah's holographic display. The room filled with floating images of brain activity from dozens of different species across the galaxy. Look at these patterns, Sarah began, pointing to the neural scans. Andromedans, Zephyrians, Centaurians, and all other telepathic species show similar thought structures. They process information in sequence, one thought after another. Their emotions follow clear patterns. Memory and active thinking stay separate and organized. She switched to human brain scans, and the difference was shocking. Where other species showed neat, orderly lines of thought, humans displayed what looked like explosions of neural activity. Human consciousness works on what we're calling parallel cognitive processing, Sarah continued, her voice growing excited. While other species think one thought at a time, humans are simultaneously processing sensory input, accessing multiple memories, running emotional calculations, planning future actions, and staying aware of their environment all at once. Thomas Carter scratched his head. You're saying we think too much. Not too much, Sarah said quickly. Too complexly. Dr. Hayes, show them the detailed comparison. Dr. Benjamin Hayes activated a second display that made everyone gasp. Watch an Andromedan thinking about trade negotiations. The pattern shows clear, organized steps. First, evaluate the proposal. Second, consider potential profits. Third, make a decision. Clean and simple. He switched to a human brain scan of someone thinking about the same trade negotiation. The display exploded with activity that looked like a lightning storm. Thousands of neural pathways fired simultaneously. The human brain is processing the negotiation while also reading body language, remembering similar situations from years ago, calculating multiple possible outcomes, wondering if the room is too warm, thinking about what to have for dinner, worrying about a sick relative, and recalling a joke someone told them last week, Hayes explained. Captain Marcus Webb leaned back in his chair, looking stunned. So humans aren't hiding anything from telepathic scans. We're just impossible to read because our minds are too busy? Worse than that, Dr. Harrison added from her corner of the room. The complexity creates a feedback effect that can actually hurt telepathic creatures. Nexus isn't just refusing to scan humans. It's protecting itself from brain damage. Helen Brooks, the merchant captain, stood up slowly. Are you telling us that every human in the galaxy is naturally protected from telepathic invasion? Protected by accident, Sarah clarified. Evolution gave humans something no other species has. Minds so complex that they are accidentally impossible for telepathic species to penetrate safely. David Thompson, the mining engineer, nodded thoughtfully. This explains why aliens always say we're emotional and unpredictable. We're not actually unpredictable. We're just thinking about so many things at once that our behavior seems random to creatures who think in straight lines. Sarah pulled up another display showing the difference between human and alien decision-making processes. When an Andromedan decides whether to buy something, they think about price, quality, and need in that order. When a human makes the same decision, they consider price, quality, need, how it looks, what their friends will think, whether they deserve it, if it matches their other belongings, how long it will last, environmental impact, and memories of similar purchases all at the same time. No wonder we confuse them, Diana Clark laughed. Dr. Hayes brought up historical data. We've been reviewing old first contact reports between humans and telepathic species. Again and again, alien observers describe humans as having chaotic thought patterns and emotional instability. What they were actually encountering was cognitive complexity beyond their understanding. Thomas Carter looked at his hands as if seeing them for the first time. So this whole time, while other species have been treating us like we're primitive because we get emotional and change our minds, we actually have the most advanced thinking system in known space. Exactly, Sarah said. What the galaxy interpreted as human weakness is actually your greatest strength. You don't just consider one option at a time. You consider dozens of options, factor in emotional and logical elements, process past experiences, and predict future consequences all simultaneously. Marcus realized the enormous implications. This means every human is naturally immune to telepathic spying, mind control, and mental manipulation. No wonder some species have been nervous about human expansion into their territories. Dr. Harrison had been studying Nexus through the observation window during their discussion. Look at the creature now, she said softly. Everyone turned to watch Nexus in its chamber. The Mindreader beast was no longer showing fear colors. Instead, its crystal crown glowed with steady, curious blue light. The creature was watching the humans through the glass with what looked like fascination rather than terror. It's learning, Sarah observed. Nexus is beginning to understand that humans aren't dangerous. They're just different. The creature is adapting its approach. As if responding to her words, Nexus moved closer to the observation window and gently pressed one crystal formation against the glass near where Thomas Carter stood. The gesture seemed almost like a greeting. I think, Thomas said softly, it's trying to say hello. 2 weeks after the discovery, Station Omega looked like the most important place in the galaxy. Ships arrived daily carrying Federation officials, scientists, and diplomatic representatives from 4 to 7 different species. The revelation about human brain complexity had shaken the entire galactic community. Admiral Patricia Stone appeared on the main viewscreen from Earth, addressing the crowd of delegates gathered in Station Omega's largest conference room. Dr. Mitchell's research has changed everything we thought we knew about human capabilities. We're not just talking about security protocols anymore. We're talking about a complete revision of human-alien relations. Captain Marcus Webb stood beside the rebuilt scanning chamber where Nexus now lived in a specially designed habitat. The Mindreader beast had recovered from its initial shock and was showing remarkable adaptability. Instead of fear, the creature now displayed curiosity toward humans. The creature has learned a completely different approach, Dr. Emily Harrison explained to the assembled delegates. Instead of trying to read specific thoughts, which overloads its systems, Nexus now scans for emotional intent. It's much safer for the creature and still provides useful security information. Thomas Carter had volunteered to stay on the station during the investigation and became the first human to successfully complete a modified Mindreader protocol. As he walked into the chamber, Nexus approached carefully but without distress. The creature's crystal crown glowed with soft, steady blue light as it gently touched Thomas's shoulder instead of trying to access his forehead. The scan can still detect if someone has bad intentions, Dr. Sarah Mitchell announced to the watching crowd. But it no longer attempts to penetrate the cognitive complexity that makes human minds so overwhelming for telepathic species. The political consequences were enormous. Ambassador Jennifer Walsh spoke to the gathering through a secure communication link from the Human Colonial Authority. For decades, other species have viewed human emotional behavior and unpredictable decision-making as primitive traits. We now understand these characteristics represent the most advanced cognitive system in known space. James Mitchell, the Federation's telepath coordinator, reported similar discoveries happening across the galaxy. Human immunity to telepathic intrusion makes them perfect candidates for sensitive diplomatic missions, intelligence operations, and negotiations with hostile telepathic species. Captain Helen Brooks and engineer David Thompson had become famous throughout Federation space, with universities requesting permission to study human thinking patterns. Both had politely declined, preferring to return to their normal jobs, though now they carried special diplomatic passes that allowed them to bypass traditional security procedures. The most significant change came in the form of new laws called the Cognitive Diversity Accords, signed by all Federation member species. The agreement recognized humans as having unique brain architecture that required different interaction methods, while also acknowledging the strategic advantages of human mental complexity. Dr. Benjamin Hayes published a research paper titled Parallel Processing in Human Consciousness: How Humans Accidentally Developed Psychic Defense. The paper became required reading in every alien psychology program in Federation space. 3 months after the original incident, Captain Marcus Webb received a routine cargo manifest to review. The ship belonged to Captain Lisa Anderson, a human trader from the Mars colonies. As he prepared the standard security checks, Marcus smiled and activated the new human-compatible scanning procedures that were now used in all Federation facilities. In Chamber 7, Nexus waited patiently, its crystal crown glowing with the gentle blue light that meant it was ready for emotional intent scanning rather than invasive thought reading. The most interesting development came from an unexpected source. Dr. Harrison discovered that prolonged exposure to human mental patterns was actually improving Nexus's cognitive abilities. The creature was learning to process multiple information streams simultaneously, mimicking human parallel thinking on a smaller scale. It's like the beast is upgrading its own mental software, Harrison explained to Marcus one evening as they watched Nexus successfully scan 3 different species in rapid succession. Exposure to human complexity is making it smarter and more adaptable. Thomas Carter, now serving as a special consultant for human-alien cognitive research, often thought about the irony of the situation. Humans hadn't evolved special psychic powers or telepathic abilities. They had simply developed minds so wonderfully, chaotically complex that they had become accidentally immune to the mental intrusions that affected every other species in the galaxy. The galaxy's security systems were being redesigned around this new understanding. Instead of relying purely on Mindreader beasts, facilities now use combination approaches. Humans were scanned for emotional intent rather than specific thoughts. Other species continued with traditional deep scans. The system was more complex but much more effective. Captain Lisa Anderson's scan went perfectly. She entered the chamber with the confident stride of an experienced trader. Nexus approached her calmly, touched her shoulder with one crystal formation, and gave a clear reading of honest intentions within seconds. All clear, Marcus announced through the intercom. "Welcome to Station Omega, Captain Anderson." As Lisa left the chamber, she paused to look at Nexus with fascination. "Amazing creature," she said. "I can feel its curiosity. It's actually interested in how we think, isn't it?" Dr. Harrison nodded. "Nexus has developed what we call cognitive appreciation. It finds human mental complexity fascinating rather than threatening." Sometimes, Marcus reflected, the things that made humans seem weak or primitive to other species turned out to be their greatest strengths. Being human, with all the emotional chaos and parallel thinking that entailed, was perhaps the ultimate advantage in a galaxy full of telepathic species. The Mindreader beasts had taught the galaxy an important lesson. Humans weren't broken or defective. They were simply operating on a level of mental sophistication that other species were only beginning to understand. In trying to catch human cheaters, they had discovered that humans were naturally immune to the very concept of mental intrusion.